Ladies and gentlemen, Violent Games here, coming at you with another Dishonored 2 build, and holy fucking shit! I have not had more fun with any other build than the Batgirl / Batman build. I did not expect to have this much fun, but I don't know why I didn't think to do this build sooner, but when I actually started playing the game, I'm like, wow, this is actually really fun and really dynamic. Let's get into why that is. So what is the Batgirl build? I'm just going to call it the Batgirl build because I played Emily when I was doing this build. And the reason for that was because of her Crossbow Masterwork upgrade, Long Distance Lover. I preferred that over any of the other Crossbow upgrades, and we will be using that if I didn't spoil that already. So, what is the Batgirl build? Basically, it's a non-lethal stealth playthrough where you do nothing but non-lethal takedowns. You can do aggressive takedowns if you want as well. That does fit in with the Batgirl / Batman theme of the build, but I opted for a more stealthier approach, and that's how I'm going to be approaching the build to you guys. Just keep that in mind. You can play however the fuck you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Tweak the build the way you want. I really do think that this is a fun way to play the game, though, so I'm going to basically be going over what upgrades you're going to get as opposed to what abilities to get. So, just to reiterate what I'm saying and try to clarify it for you a little bit. There's not going to be an ability section for this guide because there are no abilities. You're going to basically reject the outsider's mark and opt for a Flesh and Steel playthrough. And you're also going to be doing this on a New Game Plus profile. The reason we're going to do that is because you want to collect all the blueprints preemptively before you start this build. So play however you want the first time through the game, but then use your New Game Plus profile with all the blueprints acquired for this one, so that you feel like Batman. And the reason you're going to feel like Batman is because, one, you're going to be knocking everyone out. You're not going to be killing anybody. You're going to have a fuck ton of money because when you collect all of the blueprints that you pick up in your New Game Plus playthrough are also going to turn into currency, and additionally the runes that appear in the game are also going to appear as currency. Both are, I think, all of them being $200 each. So, how are we going to do our upgrades? I'm basically just going to do a list in which I think it's best to acquire things in a certain order, but ultimately you're going to have everything you need early on due to the high income nature of this build. You're not even going to need to rob black market shops if you don't necessarily want to, if you want to have the full Batman / Batgirl role-playing experience. So first up, for our upgrades, we're going to get Moth Dust Wrappings. This is going to make stealth significantly easier, and you want to get this right off the bat as soon as you find the first black market shop. Following that, you're going to get Instant Sleep Dart. Instant Sleep Dart is by far the best crossbow upgrade for a non-lethal playthrough, even though it's not necessarily in the crossbow upgrade section. It's basically when you go around a corner, or if you need to take out a target from range, you're going to be able to do that very easily with this and non-lethal. You're basically going to be buying a fuck ton of sleep darts because of how good this ability is, and having it early on really makes it just makes the game so much easier. After this, we're going to start investing into our Silent Running and Silent Sprint abilities that you get from the Outfit section. This is going to give you more movement options when you're a bit of a ways away from the enemy. Your footsteps are much too loud to sprint almost at all in a non-lethal playthrough, or what am I trying to say? In any amount of stealth playthrough at all. So having this early on is going to give you a lot more movement options throughout the game without necessarily compromising your stealth. You're going to have to get a feel for the range of these boots as well, because they can still hear your footsteps. They can still hear them, but they're a lot more mute, and it, like I said, gives you better movement options and shit. And you can also slide into certain takedowns if an enemy is distracted by, say, a body. So I like having Silent Running and Silent Sprint just because I don't want to stay crouching the entire playthrough. Next up, we're going to get all the Stun Mine upgrades. The Stun Mine, by far, is the cheese of this build. If you ever need to cheese a scenario in the game, you're going to throw down a Stun Mine. You can bait people into Stun Mine, you can bait multiple enemies into Stun Mine, and it'll usually clear rooms of people with just one. Like, the Stun Mine is extremely powerful, and you should definitely use it to your advantage when you can. Next up, we're going to get all of the crossbow upgrades, and then we're going to top that off with the Masterwork upgrade, Long Distance Lover. I massively prefer Long Distance Lover. Basically, your crossbow sleep dart has unlimited range. You barely ever have to worry about the accuracy of the damn thing. You can pinpoint certain targets if the target's wearing a helmet or a piece of armor. You can zoom in and really pinpoint where you want to hit. You can take out certain enemies easily. Like, for example, you're going to actually use your steel bolts as well to shoot Clockwork Soldiers in the head if they happen to activate, so that they lose their ability to see you. And then you can follow up with a stealth takedown on them, and I'm going to cover that in a moment. Next up, you're going to want to buy all of your Bonecharm Slots. You will be finding some useful Bonecharms in the game, but to be honest, none of them are necessary for the way you're going to be playing this build. You're going to be very sneaky, you're going to be relying on your tools mostly, and there aren't a lot of Bonecharms that really fix your tools, and because you don't have Bonecharm crafting in this playthrough, none of the Bonecharms make a significant difference. So you don't really have to worry about them. That's one of the things I actually like about this build. Even though I thought it would be kind of a hindrance, it actually makes the game more interesting, and you're a bit more limited, but at the same time, you have everything you need to deal with every scenario in the game without powers. And it's really fun to interact with the world in this way. Next up, we're going to be getting the Monkey Wrench Sword Upgrade. Make sure you get this before you enter the Clockwork Mansion, of course. And one thing that they do not tell you that this upgrade does, that is absolutely the reason we're going to be getting it and why it's 100% necessary. Do not skip this before you enter the Clockwork Mansion. You can stealth kill Clockwork Soldiers. You can sneak behind them like you would any other person and take them out. This is considered a silent takedown, and additionally, it does not add to your chaos score at all because these are robots. It gives you, honestly, Monkey Wrench, the sword upgrade Monkey Wrench, not describing itself properly, really kind of pissed me off because it's absolutely necessary for every stealth build, period. You want to have this because it gives you a very, very good utility for taking out Clockwork Soldiers effortlessly. And another reason why we want to do New Game Plus, because you usually don't get this upgrade till like the end of the first playthrough. It's nice to have this throughout the entire game, and it's going to make you feel like, oh, my character's really smart and knows how to dismantle robots. You know who know how to dismantle turrets, sentries, and robots? Fucking Batman. That's who. It's really fucking awesome. I love Monkey Wrench. It's actually one of my favorite upgrades, period, now. And of course, Occult Kiss is really good if you're doing lethal, but we're not doing lethal, so... Actually, not even just lethal. It has to be open combat lethal. Because, honestly, you still want Monkey Wrench if you're doing a stealth playthrough, period. So, do keep that in mind depending on which build you're going to make. Regardless of this one or another build, or who gives a fuck. And then, finally, we're going to be getting Howling Bolt and Stinging Bolt upgrades. Basically, the Stinging Bolt only has a ability to purchase it at a shop. But, like, let's just say you run out of sleep darts. You're going to want to go ahead and use stinging bolts if you are compromised. Like, say you're about to be compromised, you can pop someone with a stinging bolt, they're just going to run off. And they will not see you most of the time. And for some reason, I don't think they can even detect you most of the time when you hit them with a stinging bolt. I've been kind of experimenting with them. So you can get away with some cheesy shit with stinging bolt, though it's not as useful as sleep dart, but it's nice to have as a backup. With Howling Bolts, I actually like to use them in a different way than I think they were really intended. I think they were intended to be kind of a hard stun, but you can use them to distract enemies, to get away from enemies, and with a Masterwork upgrade, you can cause certain types of enemies to flee. You can either make Ghost Hounds flee, or Witches flee. And to be honest, I don't know which one's more useful yet. I got the Hound upgrade. I'm not entirely sure which one's more useful, but... I don't know, I'm probably just going to knock out or bypass the witches anyhow, so it's not really relevant. I like to use Howling Bolt to actually shoot it away from me to cause a distraction. Alright guys, now that I've covered all of the upgrades and when you should get them and what order I think is optimal, I'm now going to move on to general tips for a non-lethal Flesh and Steel playthrough of this game. Tip number 1, lean in short bursts. Sorry if I'm getting loud, I'm very excited. I love this build. I fucking love this build though, it's so fun. Lean in short bursts. in this game, the AI has a very realistic field of vision that if they see you popping your dumbass head up from a corner, they're going to see you like an actual person would at a reasonable distance at that. So, leaning in short bursts, they may see you, but if they only see you for a fragment of a second, it's not going to cause a detection, especially if they're a decent distance away. They're kind of just going to like be like, huh? Oh, nothing. You know, kind of ignore it. So lean in short bursts, guys. Second tip. Aerial drop takedowns are silent and break your fall from any fall in the game. You can jump off of buildings, rooftops, towers, tables, and do a silent takedown. And even though the animation is brutal and noisy, it doesn't seem to attract any guards, even if you're within close proximity of them. So do keep that in mind. Non-lethal aerial takedowns are not noisy in any respect, so do them like throughout your game, faggot. Tip number 3, save often and check your stats. This is a big one that someone could completely fuck up. Basically, I think it's good to save in between levels and always keep checking your stats page to make sure that certain NPCs don't die for pointless reasons. There are a few bugs in the game that can cause certain NPCs to die. For example, if they fall into a piece of furniture, like some guards will die. This happens a lot with sleep darts. You can sleep dart someone and they'll fall into a little panel that's used to kind of hide people who are getting changed. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know what word that is. I don't know what word describes that piece of furniture. But if guards fall into furniture along that nature, they can actually die. And this has happened to me several times. It's quite frustrating. So having quick saves available, making sure that in between large groups you check your stats, make sure no one died or you weren't detected if you're getting the ghostly achievement. It's really, really convenient, and it also gives you the ability to do one of my other tips that I will mention near the end. Fourth tip. Lethal tools are useful too in non-lethal playthroughs. So for example, you could use your gun to kite an enemy towards your current position. Like say you put a stun mine down in the hallway a bit ahead of you and you want some people to come up and find you. Well, guns are very, very loud, so you can lure them to your position that way. Another way you can use guns and such is that you can use them to destroy bloodfly nests, as well as, I was about to say rats, but rats aren't really a problem in the game. You know, just forget that. Just forget that. But another way you can use the lethal tools in your advantage is that, one, you can use steel bolts from your crossbow to hit Clockwork Soldiers in the head, disabling them from seeing you. So, yes, you do want to get the crossbow steel bolt capacity upgrade as well. Steel bolt, I don't know why I said that. Steel bolt. So you can use steel bolts to knock off their heads, and you can also use them as a way to lure enemies as well, hitting pinpoint positions that you want them to investigate. It's very, very effective. Additionally, you can even use grenades as a loud, large pool to pull a bunch of enemies into a certain direction. Just make sure you don't kill anyone in the process. Like, you have to be very careful about that. Also, if you want to silently take down bloodfly nests, the fire crossbow bolts are the way to do it. I just thought that was worth referencing in case you weren't aware. You can buy incendiary bolts at the black market as well once you upgrade the shop, I believe. Tip number 5. Buy things carelessly, mostly sleep darts and stun mines to be real, and then the stealth playthrough, you're going to expend a lot of those. And don't be stingy with your equipment, guys. Don't think you have to knock everyone out in the game using a non-lethal takedown. It's not 100% necessary. It's just goofy to fucking think that you have to do that. If you need to use 5 sleep darts to clear a room, use 5 sleep darts to clear a room. Especially in the levels where there are black markets available to you. There's no reason you shouldn't have to backtrack and maybe purchase additional equipment if you want to cheese an area, or if you're really frustrated with an area. Go ahead and get a bunch of tools, as much tools as you want. With this build in particular, you're going to have so much money that you're not going to know what to do with it. In fact, all the abilities and all the upgrades on my list that I mentioned earlier can be purchased well within 3 to 4 levels of the game easily. Possibly sooner than that, even. Especially if you're collecting all of the runes and all of the blueprints within each level and all the paintings. It's very easy to accumulate currency very, very quickly. So spend frivolously. Stun mines, sleep darts, whatever the hell you want. Just spend lots of money. The game gives you way too much in New Game Plus. And finally, guys, this is the biggest tip that I can give you for a non-lethal stealth Flesh and Steel playthrough. Experiment. Fuck around with the AI, see how far they can see. You know, really get a feel how far can they see when you're in shadow, how far can they see when you're in light. Really get a feel for what the AI can and can't see. And you're going to just master the mechanics, and it's going to be that much more engaging for you. And to be honest, once you do this, you're probably going to be so much better at stealth that if you ever do a power playthrough again where you utilize stealth, you're going to be a boss at this game. Like, you're almost never going to get seen. And it's going to be very satisfying. You're going to feel like a master ninja assassin, or not assassin, or Batman, or Batgirl, or whatever the fuck. You're going to have a really good time doing this. And I just think it's very enjoyable, and I think experimentation is important regardless of how you play the game. Experiment with parry frames, experiment with, like, drop takedowns, figure out what you need to do a drop takedown, figure out every little swing that an enemy does in lethal playthroughs. Like, just experiment with your gameplay, guys. This is going to help you out a lot, and it's going to really make you better as a gamer as a whole. You know, just fuck with shit. It's the best way to learn on every difficulty in the game. So guys, that's really all I have for you today. No ability section, so this video is going to be a bit shorter, I think. But I really, really want to emphasize how much fun this is. I feel like a lot of people are going to ignore the Flesh and Steel playthrough for the power fantasy aspect of it. But the problem with a powered playthrough, or a playthrough with supernatural powers, is that you don't really get to see what the developers were giving you with a lot of the tools in the game. Like, on most of my builds, I barely use equipment, period. If not to just cheese a certain type of enemy, like a Clockwork Soldier, for example. Or really use anything like stinging bolts or howler bolts. I never, like, went out of my way to use these types of equipment. But when you have no powers, you really are encouraged to use all of your equipment often and in an effective manner, and it's really, really fun. It's definitely a different way to play the game that is really, really engaging. Again, I keep saying the build's fun. It's because I mean it. This is my favorite build in the game thus far, and I've played this game maybe 4 to 5 times, give or take a few builds that I might not have actually finished the game on. I just did them for builds or whatever the hell. So guys, this is Violent Games. Swining Wolf. Actually, wait a second. I forgot one. Totally forgot one. I didn't write it on the list. Listen to audio cues. Audio cues can tell you anything from what direction an enemy is looking, you know, where they're moving at any given time, if they're moving closer, where in the room they're going, if they've turned around. You can, like, hear them through walls and tell which direction they're moving most of the time. So listen for audio cues. And also, I guess another tip I forgot to mention, look through keyholes. You're basically immune to being detected through keyholes. No one will ever look in a keyhole for any other reason. So that's a very safe way to get a feel of what's in the room. So now I'm officially signing off. Sorry about that. Damn it.
I wonder who that was.
No.
What? It looked like, I don't know. Come on! I don't have time for games.